I think one of the important factors from this course, I think, as a takeaway, is to remember, as we've looked at, be it Timothy Breen's book or um, a lot of the other work on South Carolina, the war in the backcountry, all these different factors. This was a war not just of the idealists, not just of George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or Samuel Adams, but this was a war of the common man. This was a war where the decisions and the beliefs of the common man were as much a deciding factor as George Washington continuing to, say, lead his army in the face of terrible difficulties in the winters of 1776 or 1777. What is interesting to note as we start to wrap up this course, and as I took a look at material on the Moravian settlement in Old Salem, is that of all the places to have celebrated the 4th of July, it's not New York, which would have still New York or Philadelphia or Charleston or even Boston. It's a pacifist settlement in North Carolina, and it is interesting to note that it is out of their thankfulness for peace that this war, this very brutal, very bloody war, is finally over. Now, in the case of the Moravian pacifists, they were a German pietistic sect that had arisen in the 1500s out of Czechoslovakia, and their focus was much more on less of the business of this world and on missions and seeking to live holy lives for Jesus Christ. Now, because of this, the Moravians were attempted to largely stay out of the conflict. Now, the Moravians had previously been persecuted in Germany and in Central Europe, and so their place was not their place had been one of contention and on being, and had more or less been an annoyance. In the colonies during the Revolutionary War, the Moravians had been harassed, had been sort of caught in the middle. They were sometimes looked on with suspicion from the revolutionary side because they refused to take up arms. And on the British side, they had likewise been at times harassed, even as they attempted to minister and meet some of the needs of the British garrisons and forces in whatever areas they happen to find themselves in. It's ironic that as the governor of North Carolina, he stops by at this Moravian settlement in Old Salem, that most everyone in North Carolina had ignored his proclamation in early 1783. Some people didn't hear about it until after the effective date had passed. And so it's these Moravians who had been caught in the middle, who had attempted as best as they could to avoid taking part in the war, to avoid making themselves compromise their religious scruples. They are the ones that say that recognize and are thankful for the freedom and the peace that is now being realized as through the initial peace agreement that had been reached in January of 1783. What stands out about the celebration that the Moravians of Old Salem had in 1783 was that it was not what we typically think of as a traditional 4th of July celebration. Rather than fireworks and loud partying, The Moravians focused the day on worship services of Thanksgiving, where there was a focus on community and a focus on thanking God for the opportunities that they had and their new country that they lived in. As one writer puts it, uh, the diary that we have of that celebration, hearts were filled with the peace of God, evident during the entire day, and especially during the procession, and all around there was silence, even the wind being still. The Moravians were um, a small sample of the sorts of people that had come to be affected by the Revolutionary War. Throughout this course, we focused on the Puritan New Englanders, or the who had decided very early on they were not going to put up with English rule. We have focused on the South Carolina backcountry people, um, who more or less had at one point intended to remain neutral, and yet, due to British excesses and British behavior, had been forced to take a side in 1780. And sort of wrapping it up, we've come to a group of people that have decided, as part of their mission and part of their goal, as servants of God and servants of Jesus Christ, was to focus on being part of God's kingdom, a kingdom not of this world. And yet, during their time, of celebration in 1783, they recognized and were thankful for the success and the emergence of the new country that they had come to live in, recognized their freedoms, but also gave credit to God and thanked God as a community in that time.